as a successful real estate agent at Matthews and Family Properties in suburban Connecticut. I should have felt proud of my achievements. At 32, I had already established myself as one of the top performers in our boutique agency. Yet, sitting at my cramped desk in the corner of our office, I couldn't shake the familiar feeling of being an outsider in my own family's company. My sister Charlotte and I had joined the family business 3 years ago, fresh out of our MBA programs. While we were twins, our parents made it clear from day one that we weren't equals in their eyes.
Victoria, can you handle these rental renewals? I've got a meeting with that luxury developer Mom set up for me.
Charlotte's voice carried across the office, dripping with her usual air of superiority. I already have 3 client meetings scheduled for today. I tried to keep my voice neutral, though frustration simmered beneath the surface.
Victoria, dear, you know your sister needs to focus on the development projects. She's being groomed for leadership.
Mom's voice made me freeze. I hadn't noticed her appearing in the doorway of her corner office. The words "being groomed for leadership" hung in the air like a heavy curtain between us. It was always like this. Charlotte got the premium listings, the development deals, the networking events. I turned back to my computer, swallowing the bitter taste of rejection that had become all too familiar. The rental contracts on my screen seemed to mock me with their mundane predictability. Yet despite being relegated to what my family considered lesser work, I had built something remarkable. My portfolio of rental properties had the highest retention rate in the company's history. My clients stayed because I treated them like people, not just numbers in a spreadsheet. I'll look at them after my meetings. I finally replied, my voice firm.
Victoria, this isn't a request. Charlotte needs to prepare for her presentation. The future of our company depends on it.
I watched as Mom placed her hand on Charlotte's shoulder, pride radiating from her expression. It was the same look I'd been chasing my entire life, but never seemed to earn. That evening, long after everyone else had left, I remained at my desk, meticulously reviewing each rental contract. The cleaning staff had become my only regular companions during these late hours. The soft whir of the vacuum cleaner provided a soothing backdrop as I worked, until voices from the conference room caught my attention. My parents were still here. Unusual for them to stay this late. Looking back, I could trace the pattern of favoritism to the very beginning of our careers. 3 years ago, when I first earned my real estate license, I had to fight for every opportunity. Mom, there's a new commercial property listing on Oak Street. I'd like to take it on.
Oh, honey, those kinds of properties are too complex for someone just starting. Charlotte will handle it.
But I refused to be sidelined. Instead, I focused on what they considered lesser properties, the small apartment buildings and family homes that made up our rental portfolio. That's where I met Rose Chen, a retired teacher who owned 3 small apartment buildings. She became my first real mentor in the business. You know, Victoria, most agents just see these buildings as numbers on a spreadsheet, but you take the time to understand the stories behind them. Rose taught me that real estate wasn't just about properties. It was about people. Under her guidance, I learned to see beyond the surface. Mrs. Chen, I noticed the vacancy rate in Building B has dropped since we implemented those community events. Because you understood that tenants stay longer when they feel part of a community. That's something they don't teach in real estate school. Within a year, word spread about my approach. Other property owners started requesting me specifically. The Chen properties have a 95% retention rate now. I think we could implement similar programs in your buildings, Mr. Rodriguez. I was building something unique, a portfolio based on relationships and trust, rather than just transactions. But my parents remained unimpressed. Every success was minimized, every achievement overlooked.
That's nice, dear. But Charlotte just landed the Riverside Mall account. That's the kind of deal that really matters.
Still, I persisted. I stayed late every evening, building detailed profiles of each property and tenant. I created management systems that other agents started to copy. One evening, Rose stopped by the office unexpectedly. "I'm retiring, Victoria. My children want me to move to California to be near the grandkids." My heart sank. Rose's properties were a significant part of my portfolio. "I'm selling all 3 buildings, and I want you to handle the sale." I stared at her in shock. "You know these properties better than anyone. More importantly, you care about the people living in them. I trust you to find the right buyer." The sale of Rose's properties became my first major test. I spent weeks preparing, creating detailed property analyses and tenant histories.
"Charlotte should handle this sale. It's too big for your experience level."
"With all due respect, Margaret, I've specifically requested Victoria. This is non-negotiable." It was the first time someone had stood up to Mom on my behalf. The look of shock on her face was unforgettable. I threw myself into the projects, determined to prove Rose's faith in me was justified. Every evening, I met with tenants, understanding their concerns about the sale. "I promise you, Mrs. Chen, I'll make sure the new owners understand the importance of maintaining the community you've built here." When the final bids came in, one stood out. Not because it was the highest, but because the buyer shared Rose's vision for the properties. "They're a family-owned company, Mrs. Chen. They've committed to keeping all current staff and maintaining the community programs we started. That's exactly why I trusted you with this, Victoria. You understand that real estate isn't just about the highest bid." The sale closed at $4.2 million, the largest deal I'd ever handled. But more importantly, not a single tenant moved out during the transition. I prepared a detailed presentation for our next company meeting, proud to share this achievement.
"Oh, that's cute. But listen to this. I just got a lead on a potential $10 million development deal." "Wonderful, Charlotte. Victoria, you can help by handling the paperwork while your sister focuses on the important aspects."
That evening, after everyone had left, I found a small package on my desk. Inside was a beautiful jade pendant and a note from Rose. "Never let anyone dim your light," the note read. "You have a gift, not just for real estate, but for understanding people. Don't let anyone tell you that's not valuable." Even as my parents dismissed my achievements, my reputation in the local real estate community continued to grow. My clients spoke to each other, and word spread. One morning, I received an unexpected visitor at my cramped desk.
"Ms. Matthews? I'm James Sullivan from Riverwood Apartments. My father owned the complex for 30 years before he passed away last month."
"I'm so sorry for your loss, Mr. Sullivan."
"Please, call me James. Rose Chen suggested I speak with you. She said you understand the importance of legacy in property management."
The Riverwood Apartments were a local landmark, 200 units of affordable housing that had served the community for generations.
"We've had offers from developers who want to convert it to luxury condos. But that's not what Dad would have wanted."
"Tell me about your father's vision for Riverwood." For the next hour, James shared stories about his father's commitment to providing quality, affordable housing. I took detailed notes, asking questions about the community. That evening, Mom spotted the Riverwood file on my desk.
"Riverwood? Charlotte should handle that. It's too significant for your level."
"Mr. Sullivan specifically requested me, Mom, and I intend to honor that request." For once, my tone left no room for argument. Something in Mom's expression shifted, perhaps the first hint that she was losing control. Over the next few weeks, I worked closely with James, developing a management plan that would preserve his father's legacy while modernizing the property.
"You're different from other agents we've met. They all talked about maximizing profits. You're the only one who asked about the people living here.
The Riverwood project became a turning point in my career. Other property owners began to seek me out, drawn by my reputation for balancing profitability with community values. But with each success, the tension at home grew. Every new client who requested me specifically seemed to deepen my parents' resentment. I didn't know it then, but the Riverwood success would later become the foundation of my independent business. James Sullivan would become one of my first board advisors. Looking back, I realized that every slight, every dismissal from my family had pushed me to build something uniquely my own, a business model that valued people as much as profits. I wasn't planning to eavesdrop, but their voices carried clearly through the partially open door.
Margaret, sometimes I wonder if we're making a mistake.
Dad's voice sounded heavy, tired.
What do you mean, William?
Having twins, Charlotte would have been enough. She's everything we wanted in a successor.
My hands froze over my keyboard, my heart suddenly pounding in my ears.
I know what you mean. Charlotte's special. She has that natural charisma clients love. But Victoria.
There was a pause that felt like an eternity.
Victoria's just there. We would have been fine with just Charlotte.
The words hit me like physical blows. The spreadsheet on my screen blurred as tears threatened to fall.
At least she's good with those rental contracts.
Dad's dismissive tone made my stomach churn.
True. And it's not like we can fire her. Imagine the family gossip. Better to just keep her where she is, handling the routine stuff while Charlotte takes care of the important deals.
I quietly gathered my things, my hands shaking so badly I nearly dropped my laptop. 32 years of trying to prove myself worthy, of telling myself things would change if I just worked harder. All of it crumbled in a single moment. As I drove home that night, memories flooded back with new clarity. The different birthday celebrations, Charlotte's always lavish, mine merely adequate. The way they attended all of Charlotte's tennis matches, but were too busy for my piano recitals. Even our college graduations told the story. Charlotte's celebration was a catered affair at the country club, while mine was a quiet dinner because we can't afford two big parties. That night, I couldn't sleep. Their words played on repeat in my mind. We would have been fine with just Charlotte. Morning came too quickly, and I found myself back at the office, automatically falling into my usual routine. But something had shifted inside me. The maze I'd been trapped in suddenly had a clear exit. I just needed the courage to walk through it.
Mom, the Riverside Development Group loved my presentation.
Charlotte burst into the office 2 hours late, as usual. The project she was referring to was one I'd spent months cultivating before it was handed over to her.
That's my girl. I always knew you had amazing business instincts.
I kept my head down, focused on my screen, but I could feel their eyes slide past me as if I were just another piece of office furniture. The unwanted twin. That evening, I stayed late again, but this time with a different purpose. I waited until the office was empty before slipping into Mom's office. The bottom drawer of her desk had always been off limits, a fact that suddenly seemed significant. My hands trembled slightly as I pulled it open. Beneath a stack of old files, I found what I was looking for: Mom's ancient address book. As I flipped through the pages, a single entry caught my eye. Under D for Do Not Contact was an address for Richard and Eleanor Duncan, my grandparents. The ones Mom had cut ties with years ago, claiming they were embarrassingly ordinary. The next day was Sunday, and I found myself driving through a quiet neighborhood of well-maintained colonial homes. The address led me to a modest white house with a beautiful garden. I sat in my car for what felt like hours, gathering courage. Finally, I walked up to the front door, each step feeling heavier than the last.
Yes? Can I help you?
The woman who answered had silver hair and kind eyes that widened in recognition as she looked at me. "Hi, I'm Victoria Matthews. I think you might be my grandma."
Richard, come quickly."
My grandma's voice cracked with emotion as she called out.
"What is it, Eleanor? What's wrong?"
A tall man with wire-rimmed glasses appeared behind her, freezing when he saw me.
It's Margaret's daughter, our granddaughter.
Before I knew what was happening, I was being ushered into a cozy living room. The walls were lined with photos, including some of me as a baby that I'd never seen before.
We've tried to keep track of you girls from afar. The local paper sometimes mentions the real estate company.
We wanted to reach out so many times, but your mother."
Granddad's voice trailed off, heavy with years of unspoken pain.
She changed after marrying your father. Suddenly, our lifestyle wasn't good enough. Our values weren't aligned with her new social circle.
But why? You have such a beautiful home.
"Because we choose to live simply, despite having means. Your mother never understood that wealth doesn't have to be displayed to be real."
Your granddad was one of the early investors in several tech companies. We could live in a mansion if we wanted to.
I nearly choked on my tea. But Mom always said
"That we were embarrassingly middle class."
Yes, we know.
We've heard through mutual friends how she describes us.
Granddad's smile held a hint of amusement.
"The truth is, Victoria, we've been watching you. Not just in the newspaper. We have friends who keep us informed.
We know how hard you work, how you've built your rental portfolio from nothing, how your clients trust you."
Their words brought unexpected tears to my eyes. All these years, someone had been noticing. The next morning, I arrived at the office to find it in chaos. Charlotte was bouncing around the conference room, practically glowing with excitement.
"Everyone, gather around. We have exciting news."
Mom's voice carried that familiar tone of barely contained pride, the one reserved exclusively for Charlotte's achievements.
Platinum Properties has offered us a partnership opportunity in their new Hawaii development. This could be our gateway into the luxury market. And guess who's leading the presentation team?
Charlotte's smirk was practically audible.
Your father and I will be flying to Hawaii for 2 weeks to negotiate the deal. Charlotte will be handling all presentations as our future CEO.
The other employees shifted uncomfortably in their seats. Everyone knew my numbers were better than Charlotte's.
Victoria, you'll need to manage things here. Someone has to handle the rental contracts while we're gone. Don't worry, sis. I'll send you lots of pictures of me sealing the biggest deal in company history.
Something inside me snapped. Maybe it was finding my grandparents, or maybe it was years of suppressed resentment finally breaking free. Actually, I have an announcement too. The room fell silent. Mom's smile froze, and Charlotte's smirk faltered. I had a fascinating conversation with Grandma and Granddad Duncan yesterday.
What? You went to see them? After
you specifically cut them out of our lives because they questioned how you treated me? Yes, I did.
Mom, she's just trying to ruin our Hawaii deal. She's jealous as usual.
No, Charlotte, I'm not jealous anymore. I'm done being the unwanted twin who gets all the grunt work while you play CEO. By the way, the Riverside Development Group has been calling me privately. They're not happy about being reassigned to someone who doesn't know their project's requirements. The conference room erupted into chaos. Mom was shouting about family loyalty. My father was trying to restore order, and Charlotte was having what looked like a complete meltdown.
If you walk out that door, don't think you can come back.
I turned at the doorway, my voice steady. Don't worry, Mom. You'll be fine with just Charlotte, right? Isn't that what you've always wanted? The color drained from Mom's face. She knew that I'd heard their conversation that night. I drove straight to my grandparents' house. They were waiting for me, somehow knowing I'd need them today. Welcome home, sweetheart." As I sat in their kitchen telling them everything through tears, Granddad disappeared into his study. "Victoria, we've been waiting for the right moment for this." Granddad placed a leather folder on the kitchen table. Inside was a detailed business proposal, complete with market analysis, financial projections, and a substantial investment offer to help me start my own real estate company. "We believe in you, sweetheart. Not just your business acumen, but your heart for this work. Come outside with us. There's something else." Following them to the driveway, I stopped in my tracks. There, gleaming in the morning sun, was a brand new Mercedes E-Class. I can't accept this. It's too much." "Nonsense. We've been saving our investment returns for something special. You're special, Victoria." For the next few days, I stayed with my grandparents, planning my next steps. Then the messages started coming.
Living my best Hawaiian life while some people process rental agreements. #blessed future issue.
Charlotte's social media posts were relentless, each one designed to hurt. But I didn't respond. I was too busy setting up my new office, a beautiful space with large windows and a view of the city. Then came the concerned calls from family friends.
"Your mother is heartbroken. How could you betray your family like this?"
Betrayal? Like wishing I'd never been born? My response was met with stunned silence. What they didn't expect was the response from our clients. One by one, they began transferring their contracts to my new company. Mrs. Richardson, our largest property owner, called Mom directly.
"I've worked with Victoria for 5 years, Margaret. She knows every detail of my properties, every tenant's history, every maintenance record. Your other daughter couldn't even remember how many units I own."
Within 2 weeks, I had retained 80% of my former clients and gained 5 new ones through referrals. Then Charlotte showed up at my new office, bursting through the door without warning.
"You're destroying everything. Mom and Dad built this business for me."
My new receptionist, Sarah, nearly jumped out of her chair at Charlotte's outburst. "They were never your clients, Charlotte. You just assumed they were yours because Mom and Dad gave you everything else."
"Because I deserve it. I'm the one they wanted. You were just extra."
The office fell silent. Even Charlotte seemed shocked by her own words. "You're right. I was just extra to them. But not anymore. Please leave before I call security." The next day, my parents made their final play, showing up at my grandparents' house.
"We're willing to forgive everything. You can come back to the company. We'll even give you Charlotte's office."
And we'll match whatever salary you're planning to pay yourself, plus benefits.
"Why now?" I asked, though I already knew the answer.
"The Richardson portfolio is threatening to pull all their properties if we don't get you back. They're our biggest client."
"No." My voice was calm, certain.
"After everything we've done for you?"
A small laugh escaped me, surprising even myself. "Everything you've done for me? You mean like wishing I'd never been born? Treating me like an unwanted extra? Giving every opportunity to Charlotte while leaving me to handle the work you thought was beneath you?"
We gave you a job.
"No, William. You gave her a cage. One designed to keep her small enough that Charlotte would always look bigger."
"This is all your fault. You turned her against us with your fancy car and your money. Actually, Linda, you did that all by yourself. Years of favoritism, years of treating one daughter like a princess and the other like an unwanted guest in her own family."
3 months later, my business wasn't just surviving, it was thriving. I had retained most of my key clients, hired 5 experienced agents who left my parents' company, and signed contracts with 3 major property developers. But more importantly, I had found myself. My office became more than just a workplace. It became a haven where every team member was valued, where clients were treated like family, and where success was measured not just in dollars, but in relationships built. One evening, as I was having dinner at my grandparents' house, Granddad handed me a small box. Inside was a nameplate for my desk. Victoria Duncan Matthews, CEO, Duncan and Matthews Independent Real Estate. We thought you might like to add our family name to yours. After all, you've proven yourself more than worthy of it. That's when Charlotte surprised us all by showing up at the door.
I've been doing a lot of thinking.
Her usual confidence was gone, replaced by something I'd never seen before: humility.
I've been watching how you run your company, how your employees respect you, how your clients trust you. I was wrong, Victoria, about everything.
It wasn't an instant fix. Years of damage don't heal overnight. But it was a start. 1 year after opening Duncan and Matthews Real Estate, I hosted a special event in our expanded office space. Rose Chen had flown in from California specifically to attend. I knew you had it in you all along, Victoria. Look at what you've built. The office was filled with clients, colleagues, and friends. All the people who had been part of my journey. James Sullivan was there with his family, and my team members were proudly showing visitors around. In the corner, my grandparents were deep in conversation with Charlotte, who had completed her first month in our mentorship program.
I never understood before. Victoria doesn't just manage properties. She builds communities. That's always been your sister's gift. She sees the humanity in business.
Then a familiar figure appeared in the doorway. Mom, looking uncharacteristically uncertain.
May I come in?
The room fell quiet. This was her first visit to my office. Of course, Mom. Welcome to Duncan and Matthews.
I've been doing a lot of thinking, watching what you've built here. I was wrong, Victoria. So wrong.
She reached into her bag and pulled out an old photo album.
I found this at home. Pictures from when you girls were babies. You were never extra, Victoria. You were always extraordinary. I just couldn't see it.
As we looked through the photos together, I felt the last pieces of hurt beginning to heal. Success hadn't just changed my business. It had changed all of us. Today, Duncan and Matthews is known not just for our property management success, but for our community-first approach. Charlotte runs our mentorship program, helping new agents understand that real estate is about more than just transactions. My parents' company has adopted many of our practices, and we now collaborate on community development projects. Mom and Dad attend our weekly family dinners at my grandparents' house, where we share stories, lessons, and laughter. But most importantly, I've learned that true success isn't measured by the size of your office or the number of deals you close. It's measured by the lives you touch and the communities you help build. I'm no longer the unwanted twin. I'm Victoria Duncan Matthews, and this is exactly where I was always meant to be. 6 months after starting my own company, I stood in my expanded office space, watching the sunrise paint the city skyline in shades of gold. So much had changed. My team had grown to 15 people, each chosen not just for their skills, but for their dedication to treating clients like family. The corner office I now occupied was bigger than my old cubicle, but it wasn't just the space that felt different. It was me.
Victoria? Do you have a minute?
Charlotte's voice was hesitant, so different from her old commanding tone. She had started coming by once a week, asking questions about property management, genuinely trying to learn. Mom and Dad's company, it's struggling. Without your clients and your team, they're having trouble maintaining their standards.
I finally understand why. They built an empire, but you built relationships.
I turned to look at my sister, really look at her. The perfectly polished facade was gone, replaced by something more authentic. Would you like to learn how? The words surprised us both. That evening, during our weekly family dinner at my grandparents' house, now a cherished tradition, I made an announcement. I'm starting a mentorship program at Duncan & Matthews. Charlotte will be our first participant.
Your mother called yesterday.
Grandma's words made me pause.
She asked if they could join us for dinner next week. She said she's ready to listen.
Looking around the table, at my grandparents who had given me not just support but understanding, at Charlotte who was learning to be not just a sister but a friend, at my team who had become family, I realized something profound. Success wasn't about proving my worth to others. It was about believing in my own worth all along. Yes, they can come. I smiled, feeling truly at peace. Because sometimes the hardest person to forgive isn't the one who hurt you. It's the part of yourself that believed you deserved it. I wasn't the unwanted twin anymore. I was Victoria Duncan Matthews, CEO, granddaughter, sister, mentor, and finally, completely and unapologetically myself.